everyone. Welcome to the year 2021. And yes, the big picture is still about. I'm your host for the episode, Jack Graham. You can find the big picture on Anchor, Spotify, iTunes, pretty much anywhere you get your podcast. We're on it. We've got the YouTube page. We've got our Twitter out on this with the big picture. It's the same on our Instagram as well. We're all over the place. So subscribe, check us out, listen to previous episodes. We're great. If I do say so myself, we are pretty fantastic. You probably already know the episode we're doing. We're doing a season 2 review of The Mandalorian and big pitching what we want to see next from The Mandalorian for the next installment on Disney Plus. And we all know I won the last episode, so that's why I'm hosting. But the other four now have a chance to stake a claim at the Star Wars fame in the big picture. So we have, to be honest, I don't have any witty intros this time round. I didn't really prepare for it. But first off, we have Rhys Cook. Rhys, welcome and a very belated happy birthday.
Thank you very much. I'm very glad that you don't have any witty intros because they always catch me off guard and I just don't know what to say back to them. So I'm just excited to be here.
You know what? I'm excited you're here as well, Rhys. It's a new year, you know. Friendship's still going strong. You know, we're breaking boundaries. This is it for us, Rhys. I'm glad you're here.
Yeah, well, you said it's a new year, and you started off the podcast by saying that you didn't prepare for this episode, so that's always good.
Well, I did prepare the intros. I've done very fucking well everywhere else. Right next, a man that would never question my judgment, Adam Markiewicz. How are we doing?
I'm good, Jack. How are you?
You know what? I'm all right. I'm very much looking forward to this. I think there's going to be plenty of interesting discussions, and I'm glad you still want to do this podcast, even though we're like 6-7 months on. Yeah, we are 6 or 7 months on doing this podcast. That's mad.
It is mad. It shows what started off as a dream and a Wetherspoons and Paisley, and it could turn into reality, and it's still going strong.
Thank you, lockdown. Next, some arguably the cock of our group. I guess he's been whipped with a lockdown machine. Stuart Fitzgerald, welcome to the show again.
Thanks for having me. Happy New Year, everybody. Yep, let's go for 2021. I'm sure nothing bad will happen this year. This is our year.
Oh, sorry, got to a fucking shit start with what's happened though in America, so thanks for that, Stuart.
What have I missed? I'm a bit behind. I still think it's the third.
We'll leave that for another day. But last but not least, we have someone that's a regular in the big picture championship rankings, hoping to take the first crown of 2021 maybe. Who knows? But Lewis Jameson, I'm sure you'll have something to say if you don't win.
Well, yeah, but if memory serves me right, I believe I won the first ever episode of the big picture, so I need to keep trends going and win the first episode of the new year. Happy New Year, everybody. And I'm sure 2021 will just be 2020 in reverse, where it starts off pretty shit, hopefully just gets better by the end of the year. We can actually have a Christmas with our friends and family.
What was it we did? It was Battle Royals, wasn't it? And that's the whole playing discussion for Fortnite came up. I'm sure Stuart and Rhys have fond memories of that, don't you?
Yeah, it was a discussion is what it was.
And do you want to know something, Stuart? Planes are back in Fortnite.
What?
Yep, they're back. They're in the map. They've got their own LTM mode on the game. It's glorious.
Do you know what?
I don't say LTM. Stuart gets confused.
Christmas. I broke a wishbone over Christmas, and do you know what, lads? It looks like that wish finally came true.
But here, we're not fucking talking about Fortnite, so Stuart, so shut up. We've got the Mandalorian to talk about. This is season 2. Obviously, we kind of know the idea of the series after the ending of season 1. The whole point was that the Mandalorian was having to take the child to the Jedi, to where he originally came from, in order to finish his mission, pretty much of transporting him to where he was meant to be. But of course, he comes along various different tasks along the way. Maybe a lot of it seemed repetitive to begin with, but the ending, I think, really had a good payoff for me, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. But before we kind of get into talking about individual episodes and kind of instances that happened throughout the season, without going in too deep, just your brief opinion on this season overall. Stuart, yay or nay?
It's a very slight yay for me. It's a positive, but not by much.
Interesting. What about yourself, Lewis? What's your thoughts on it?
Well, the big picture audience can't see me, and thank God for that because they don't need to. But my thumb is currently sitting up and down halfway. It was a good kind of finish finale, but the whole series was a bit hit or miss for me.
And this is not what I had in mind for when I was coming around this. I thought there would just be one glaring opposition, but colour me stupid, lads. Am I right? Adam, what's your thoughts?
Well, Jack, like yourself, I quite enjoyed it. I felt it was a nice change of pace from season one. I also thought they were quite brave with a lot of the episode decisions and what they tried to do. And like you said, I thought the finale was excellent. So for me, I really enjoyed it.
Last but not least, the biggest Star Wars fan of them all in this podcast, Rhys Cook. Your thoughts on season 2?
I mean, you know me, I love the Star Wars, but I thought I'm kind of on the same boat as Stuart and Lewis here. I'm surprised, as you are, Jack, that I'm not the only one, but I thought it was a bit underwhelming. I would say a slight yay. I would give it an overall a good review, but it was definitely didn't live up to the standards of season 1.
Interesting. I kind of thought the polar opposite. I'd say that I enjoyed what the season had to offer here. I felt that maybe there was points where it did dip a bit, and the bits that maybe weren't needed, which I'm sure we'll kind of talk about. But the points that were good were really, really good, and it just eclipsed it for me. But I'll kind of kick off a discussion with something that happened in our group chat that we had, also episode 1. When this was all getting released, me and Stuart, I think we were the first ones to watch the first episode when it came out, and we spoke about obviously the big fight against that monster thing. I can't remember the name. That's when he finds the old Mandalorian armor and he has to help the wee village and he fights a big monster. And me and Stuart were talking about it. The episode was a bit until that point. We kind of enjoyed that. But something that was picked up on in our first Mandalorian episode we did as a podcast was the kind of cinematography. I think you mentioned this quite a bit, Rhys. And Stuart messaged me and he says, Rhys will enjoy the cinematography that's on offer here.
I did. I remember Stuart actually said to me after he watched it. Well, I think he watched like the first 2 episodes, and he messaged me saying that you'll really enjoy the cinematography. I think it's better than it was last year. He's definitely right. The first episode the cinematography was really good, and then I think episode 3 we finally got the ice planet. I said I wanted like an Arctic planet. And we finally got that. So the fact that they were varying it, but episode 1, this is a show where a guy travels around infinite planets in a galaxy, and they're going back to a planet that they've already been to in episode 1. So straight away I was underwhelmed. But you have to say that the cinematography for the episode and the whole season in general was really good.
He's been through a desert on a horse with no name. It felt good to be out on the rain.
In the desert.
Let's go. Come on. Right, Stuart. Obviously, we were speaking about this in the group chat, and it kind of kicked off a wee bit. Not that it kicked off. Not that we all start hating on each other, because we already fucking hate each other in this show. But it got to a point where Rhys accused, through the accusation, that this scene was completely ripped off from somewhere. Where was that ripped off from?
Stop tiptoeing around the fact. Stuart, tell him.
Everyone, we've all read the Dune books here. Okay, we all know what they're based on. That SpongeBob episode. Let's just come out and say it.
The Alaskan bullworm.
All I could say is, right, we see if you don't like going to this one planet in the show, holy fuck, are you going to hate the Star Wars films, all right?
I'm just saying that there's infinite planets you could go to. Why is the first episode of the new season, even if it goes back to that planet at a different point of the season, the first episode of the season, I was just like, don't piss me off. And that's what they did. Anyway.
Because it's cheap to film in Tunisia.
Oh, interesting.
I thought you got plans for your own film now, Rhys. Now you've got that information to film in Tunisia.
Yeah, well, the James Bond movie that I was talking about a few episodes back that I'm filming,
of course,
that's going to be in Tunisia now.
Of course, but So you both kind of liked the fight scene that happened here, pretty much. The kind of the first mission for the Mandalorian and the first submission and his mission to transport the child.
I really liked all of it. I think it's quite a strong opener for the season. It's definitely the episode with the most polish. It's directed by Jon Favreau, who's probably the most seasoned director from the show. And I even like, it's not just about like the big battle for me. I think the whole episode is great from like start to finish. You know, not only is the cinematography really good, especially the big battle at the end, but like it shows Mando being a bit more creative than just pointing and shooting at things. Like he has to figure stuff out, which he does by himself for once. At the beginning, like with that mob boss, he doesn't simply kill him. Like he leaves them strung up and shoots the light and lets those creatures do the work for him. Like, and he can't just shoot the crate dragon from the sky, and his ship needs to come down and track it, as well as unite the Tusken Raiders and the villagers. You know, I think it's just a really good story that they've actually put the effort into.
Yeah, I thought as well. Can I just jump in?
Aye, fire ahead, man. Fire ahead.
I like the fact that it had a Wild West theme to it. I thought, and that was really encapsulated, especially by Vanth. You know, obviously with Boba Fett's armor on. Spoiler. He's got. I just really like that the town he goes into. It's got the kind of small town Wild West. You know, you don't trust anyone. You go in the saloon, and then even as Stuart says, the way he unites the people, that's almost got a bit, you know, cowboys and Indians feel to it. I thought in terms of theme as well, an opening theme that was really strong. A lot of people said about Mandalorian season 1, it was kind of it brought a lot of Wild West to it, and I thought they really doubled down on it in this episode. And I thought it gave a lot of fan service in it because I think people like to see that kind of thing.
Well, Adam, you just completely cut away with what I was going to go to for Lewis next. Obviously, we saw Cobb Vanth with the Boba Fett armor on, and at the end of the episode, the big thing is that we saw the return of Boba Fett, or what appears to be Boba Fett at that point. Lewis, were you excited when this happened?
Mate, I about freaked out. The start of the episode, I was a bit like, oh, right, here we go. Kind of like Rhys back in the same place, back doing the same thing. And then that shot happens of Mandalorian flying away, and then it pans down, and you just see the scarred face of the back end of what we presumed to be Boba Fett. And I was about with the girlfriend watching it, and I freaked out. I was like, holy, he's back! How are they going to explain he's alive? How did he get out the pit? What's been going on the last couple of years? All those questions didn't get answered, which is a problem I have. But aside from that, when I saw that kind of main reveal, I was like, oof, this is setting up for a big story.
I was quite shocked to see it. Obviously, you see in Return of the Jedi, he gets eaten by the big swamp thing. You think
Is it?
Yeah, whatever the name's called, I don't know, but like, oh my god, he must be dead. Apparently not. Adam, did you think he was dead?
Well, this is something and they didn't do this a lot in season 1, but I think there was times they did in season 2. They kind of leaned on people knowing a bit of the backstory. So I think a lot of people who haven't read into like past just seen the films, I think it's fair enough. You wouldn't have known that Boba Fett survived, but it's actually quite well known for people who like read any expanded universe that he survived, because as we know, the Beskar armor is so strong. He actually survived for long enough in the Sarlacc pit to cut himself out. That's how he survives. Obviously, it's not explained how he lost the armor. I think it's kind of implied that maybe when he was recovering, the Jawas just nicked it. But that's the explanation given. So I wasn't necessarily surprised. I was kind of, as soon as I heard there was a Mandalorian, I was kind of looking forward to Boba Fett maybe being involved. I was looking forward to seeing him. So it was less of I was happy to see him. I was maybe less surprised than some people were. Just
in relation to the expanded universe, there one thing that is quite difficult, I think, for your average person, maybe even one that has dabbled a little bit in the expanded universe, is like knowing what is canon and what it isn't. And while the Boba Fett thing, as Adam has explained, there was explained, I think it's too much for people to be expected to know that, and to even know what is considered canon is almost impossible to Star Wars because it's such a big IP that people can just go and crazy with it. I think it's a bit lazy on the producers to let people kind of figure that one out on themselves.
That's an interesting take. I like that, because like that, as you said, a lot of the casuals have been a bit. When Rhys, when you watched it, did you know that was Boba Fett?
Guys, I don't even know what you're talking about. I'm just here for the ride.
Exactly. That's like, I think that just kind of proves Lewis's point a bit. But we'll return to Boba Fett in a bit. We'll kind of go on to what's happened next. And for me, not that much. The spider episode happened in the ice. I hated it until that point. I thought it was absolutely shit.
Nah, wait a minute. You liked the spiders?
I liked the bit when it got to the spider. That was the only exciting bit of the episode for me. Everything before that I thought was boring as fuck.
Jack, I want to say the CGI for the spiders is up there with the worst CGI I've ever seen in the history of any show or movie I've ever watched in my life, ever.
We haven't even gotten to the finale yet.
You haven't seen Mummy Returns. Clearly. Yeah, you've not seen the Scorpion King Mummy Returns. Anyone who's seen that here, that's the worst.
It's so bad. I couldn't. When I was watching it, I was cringing. I hated it. I hated the spider part so much. That's all I have to say.
Interesting, because I was like, as I said, there wasn't much happened before. So he was just transporting this frog person thing with the eggs that the child seemed to like eating a lot, and that's something actually I want to bring that up as well, because Lewis, you said you wanted a bit more kind of character development with the child, so to speak, gives a reason to care. And they seem to kind of lead on the kind of humorous side of the child, for not the humorous side, but they kind of allow the child to do things that would be to get the cheap laughs. Did you think that was kind of good character development with the kind of cute wee noises and doing the wee kind of stupid things here and there?
I mean, it's not character development; it's just quirks to sell toys.
Yeah,
like that's all it is. Like the only point we got to character development, and maybe we'll get to it later, is when he's put on this mythical stone. Like at that point, we start to learn a bit more about Grogu. But aside from that, eating eggs and causing rampage on social media because people hated that for some reason, that's just to sell toys. It's not character development. It's cheap, in my opinion.
There's an old phrase in show business that's, let me get this right. Don't bring a gun to Act 1 if you don't plan to fire it by Act 5. And basically what it means is, don't show something just for the crack. I mean, what? He's eating eggs. I was expecting at some point in the movie some point in the series for that to be relevant again. But it's never brought up again after that episode. It was just so pointless. I know, I'm actually getting really annoyed. I'm just going to mute my mic for the next 20 minutes.
But Lewis, I'll stick with you here, because obviously they take this frog person with the eggs to the planet where she resides, meets up with her husband type thing, they look after the eggs, blah, blah, blah. But at this point we find out that there are other Mandalorians, and by God did Sasha Banks have a dream and she made it. She is one of the Mandalorians. But my thing I want to talk about, also it's great to see Sasha Banks, she's fantastic in WWE. Also, me and you both wrestling fans. She's like one of the best women's wrestlers in there, one of the best in the mic, just characters. Full stop. She's probably one of the top dogs in that place. And we see her, she does really well for the full season of The Mandalorian. But my only kind of criticism is that, to me, the trailer kind of had it perceived that she was a Jedi guiding the Mandalorian on his journey to where they need to get the child. And it seemed like a complete foot reversal to find out she's just another Mandalorian.
Hey, Jack. It's boss time! Shout out to Eat, Sleep, Suplex, Retweet, and fellow co-host Jack Graham, who's on multiple podcasts these days.
Yeah.
I think, while I could be mad at it, because my thought as well was like, okay, maybe they're starting to tease that the Jedi are starting to find out about Grogu and that they could start to rebuild the Jedi Order. I can't get mad at it because from a marketing point of view, the vagueness in how opaque they are with just giving you information is a reason to watch. Like, I remember when the trailer happened, you exclusively sent it to me to say, holy shit, Sasha Banks is in this. Is she a Jedi? And I don't know, maybe there's some deductive reasoning that you could come to and realize it wasn't a Jedi to begin with. That is just genius marketing, where you use a celebrity with a bit of pull. They did it a few times in the series, and I can't knock it because Star Wars is known for this. There was Daniel Craig was a stormtrooper in the newer trilogies. Like, there's little snippets of this where people just want to be involved. So I think they kind of used the combined celebrity factor with this desire to be involved to kind of create a feeling of excitement about whatever it could possibly be. And Star Wars has kind of always been that. It's mythical, it's magical. You never know what it's going to be, and kind of marketing kind of allows them to do that.
It's Stuart. What do you think about Sasha Banks, and why do you wish it was Bailey in this role?
Because Bailey's the better wrestler, yo. All right, Sasha Banks is just annoyed of being second fiddle to Bailey. That she's hopped on over to Star Wars now. She's hoping for a bit of exposure there. I'm prefer that she's a Mandalorian. I feel like a Mandalorian gets you a better physical role than perhaps a Jedi. I feel like Jedi is probably known to be more graceful. I feel like Sasha Banks can let her actual fighting training show through with this, which she kind of does a little bit, not enough, I'd say. But back to your point about like being upset about that you had a notion of what she might be, and the show kind of went in another direction. Star Wars fans always seem to do this, and I think it's them kind of being, I think it's a product of their own hype, because I remember when the first trailers came out for Mandalorian Season 2, and the ice planet of the previous episode featured heavily. I remember so many fan theories, like it was all over Twitter, it was all over YouTube. They're like, this planet it's basically saying it was a planet that's quite important to the Jedi in the expanded universe, and they went on, there's multiple videos on what it could be, and it turns out to literally just be a bland ice planet. And I think that's hilarious, because again, it's not the show's fault. The show's fault is just showcasing you what the season will be. I think it's the fans that hype themselves up, that the only way they're going to be pleased is if they write their own fan fiction on what it's going to be. They're always going to be disappointed.
I just want to pick up on what you were saying about Sasha Banks and being in the show and how exciting all that was. I just want to give some credit to Gina Carano, who plays Cara Dune, because she was a former MMA fighter, and she was once voted like 5th in the top inspirational women. I think it was in 2008 or something like that. So I feel like you're doing a disservice to her here by not giving her credit as well.
We're not even
That's
at our
because she's
episode
fucking
yet,
awful,
Rhys.
Rhys.
She was in the whole season 1. You didn't bring it up once.
It wasn't me that was hosting it. It was you that was hosting it.
I didn't know that at the time.
Oh, he is. Hoisted by his own petard.
One thing I will say is that as much as Ronda Rousey gets credit for being a forerunner of women's MMA, it was Gina Carano originally. She really was one of the key figures in women's MMA. That being said, though, stay away from her Twitter if you don't want your perceptions of her to be ruined.
Yeah, it's also the fact, too bad she's a terrible actress. Oh my god, she's horrible in this. I actually didn't mind her last season, and I think Rhys brought it up about how she did. I was like, I didn't think she was that bad. Holy shit, was she fucking awful in this season? Her acting is horrendous. And I stick to what you know, which is punching bags, and I get out of this show before I lose my temper.
What is
Set
this?
him off, Rhys.
What is this?
But I'll stick on that point that we were talking. Not that point, but we were talking about how other Mandalorians got introduced, and obviously from season 1, Rhys, we only knew of kind of one Mandalorian. I'll call him a council, so to speak, kind of one kind of section of Mandalorian. Were you surprised, or did you like that they introduced, as just like kind of just someone that doesn't know about Star Wars, that's just watched The Mandalorian? Did you like they showed another side to the Mandalorians? For example, they took off their masks, and our Mandalorian was like, "The fuck are you doing? You can't do that."
I thought it was a cool storyline. I could see where they were going with it, but I kind of felt like it totally undermined the whole season 1, and it was kind of like an FU to the fans, because from episode 1 we've been told this is the way, and it's kind of ingrained into you at this point. It was the title of our episode on the podcast, and then we go into the next season, and it's all of a sudden, no, this isn't the way. Actually, there's loads of different ways, and it was kind of like, well, okay, but fuck season 1, I guess.
I mean, I kind of felt that it was realistic. We criticised Mandalorian last time for the classic kind of Star Wars unrealistic dialogue, that kind of thing. I thought it was a bit of realism when you get, and with being a Mandalorian, it's effectively a religion. Like a lot of things are in the Star Wars universe. I thought it would make sense. You have different religious sects, and through that you have ones that are more secular than others, ones that follow a stricter code. I thought that was, I quite liked it. I thought I liked how it was a bit of realism, and it makes sense. So as soon as it happened, I kind of sat back and thought, all right, well, yeah, like why wouldn't that wouldn't that be the case?
That Adam, you make a good point, because in my notes for episode 2, I wrote, "May the force be with you, and also with you." What the fuck is this? A fucking church? That's what I wrote in my notes. So I guess it is kind of like a religion.
That's Star Wars, Rhys. That is
I
Star
hate
Wars. But Adam, I'll stick with you here. Obviously, I said I thought that Sasha Banks was going to be the first Jedi revealed from what the trailer depicted, and obviously I was wrong in so many levels. But the Jedi we did get in the next episode was Ahsoka Tano. What about her inclusion in this? Are you happy that she was a Jedi to be introduced? Do you think it was a good character portrayal? Did you think everything about this fitted perfectly for what was happening in that next episode?
Yeah, I really enjoyed her portrayal. I thought it was interesting. Obviously, they didn't have the voice actor who's known for doing her. They had Rosario Dawson playing her, and I thought she did a really good job. I think it's quite difficult to take an animated character who the fans know, well, fans of the expanded universe will know so well, and then to not only be a different voice actor, but a different, total different portrayal, and then taking it into live action. I thought she did a really good job. I liked the choice. I thought it made sense that it was Ahsoka Tano, because it wouldn't, like, they didn't have to write in another Jedi. She was about, they've already established for people who are fans of the Clone Wars and Rebels that she exists, that she would still be around at this time. So it makes sense that he would hear of her and come into contact with her.
This episode's where me and the show kind of fall out a little bit. This is the cracks are beginning to show for me. I didn't like this episode. I think when we were all watching it, I think we all put in the chat, I think I was the second last to watch this, and you guys had said about how you really liked it. I didn't like this episode, didn't really care for it. Ahsoka in the context of this episode alone means nothing without knowing her backstory. And I don't watch the Clone Wars. I've never seen it. I know who she is, but I know next to nothing about her, and she's just a random character that pops in, easily kills a bunch of people, and is never seen again after this episode. Sure, she names the child and gives a tiny amount of backstory, which is all well and good, but the child's a brand new creation for this show, and the two things it had going for it were A, how cute he was, and B, the mystery behind him. But now we know his name, which is stupid, and I hate, by the way, and I'm never going to call him Grogu. But they also retroactively have written him into the saga, which is further connecting it to everything that came before, and it's so lazy. Because that would be like the next Star Wars trilogy, they introduced a brand new Jedi, and to get the audience to care about them, all they have to say is, "Oh, I'm the best Jedi, and I was the one that actually saved Luke Skywalker all those times because I was invisible and I used the Force." It's so lazy, and this is where I'm beginning to right, I see where the show is going, but I'm not on board for that.
I thought the whole season was just really lazily written. I just remember, just even from the very offset of the episode 1, it's like, right, we're going back to a planet we've already been to, and I was like, right, okay, we're copying SpongeBob, and I'm like, right, where are we going with this? Episode 2, you're now a taxi. Take this meaningless 2 episodes and do absolutely nothing. All we're doing is showing that Baby Yoda eats eggs, and it just that last 2 episodes that it was like nothing happened. The police stopped the guy, stopped Mandalorian to try to stop him from coming in. They're like, "Oh no, you can't come in!" And then he crashes in, and then they save him, and they say, "We should arrest you, but we're not going to. But we're going to leave you here, and you have to find your own way out." And it's just the whole season I thought was just so lazy. I think Stuart, that was a good point that Stuart brought up.
Yeah, I'm in full agreement. While I enjoyed the actual Ahsoka Tano episode as like a self-contained episode, and I kind of knew of her from the 3 episodes of Clone Wars that I've seen in passing, the whole kind of series is, Rich pointed out, it's kind of lazily written, and the only thing I can kind of compare it to is just attached to the words "and then," because that's all it kind of feels like it does. It's like, right, season 1 we go back, and then we go and do this thing, and then we go do this thing, and then we go do this thing, and it just seems to go in this circle where it doesn't actually progress. It just kind of goes back upon itself. And when we finally get like a drop, and I mean like the smidgen of a drop of backstory on Grogu, it's like, oh yeah, we're gonna go back to and then. So like we move the circle up a little bit, we just do another circle. Yeah. As much as I enjoy the actual action and self-contained thing, this sort of cyclical nature of just crappy storytelling was really getting on my nerves.
Lewis makes a good point about it going around in circles. You know, how many times will Mando go somewhere, get in a fight with someone, and then settle it for a deal? And then he's supposed to be this like badass that everyone fears, and he can kill anyone, but no one's scared of him. Everyone just makes him his bitch. It just kind of undermines the whole premise of being a Mandalorian.
I thought to come back around again, just to briefly comment, I think I agree with what Lewis says. It sometimes feels there's a lack of progression. As much as I did enjoy the series, I think I enjoyed each episode individually, but I do think progression, I think, was difficult at times. I think it maybe goes back to what I said when I were talking about season 1, and although I didn't think it was a massive flaw, I thought the different directors and different writing direction in each episode meant at times it was a bit disconnected. I think because they were trying to go for a more cohesive plot here, I think it would have served them better to have either the same director or the same writer every time instead of switching like they did season 1. It worked out well in season 1 at times, but I did feel sometimes in this one, maybe because of this different writer and different director influence, that we got a bit of a going around in circles.
I think the worst offence that this season has is in this episode, because it's kind of a meta story, because it's basically Disney or Lucasfilm saying, here's Ahsoka Tano, you need to know more about her because she's going to have her own show. It's going to be live action, so we need to introduce her in live action. And it really takes you out of it because nothing changes in this episode. Absolutely nothing changes. You get his name, but he could have got that from somewhere else, or even just given him his own name. You don't find out anything useful about him other than, oh, he's got force powers that Mando already knows. And he just gets a location that he also probably could have picked up from somewhere if he'd have done enough searching, because apparently it's a big, well-known Jedi planet. This is purely here to sell fans on her new spin-off show. Nah, keep that out. That grinds the storytelling to a halt, because it's no longer about Mando and his quest. It's all about here's a brand new character or a brand new telling of a new character that you're going to have to get used to. I really dread to think, because I think that what's going to happen with these series is Disney's going to try and link them all together like what Marvel does towards a big crossover event, which means A, more homework for Rhys, and B, less enjoyment, because rather than telling the story that people want to tell, it's a story by checklist, because you have to make sure that you've got all the plot strands laced out all these different shows, and it really waters down the story.
Interesting. And there's a lot of discussion there.
One thing that Stewart has famously told us, and Disney are falling into the trap of, is that comic books' purpose is to sell more comic books, and Disney is falling into that, whereas like for us to sell more Star Wars, we need to sell more Star Wars and make more Star Wars. And they've done it with Marvel, with the Marvel TV shows coming, the Star Wars TV shows coming, and while it might be, you know, a good quality program, at the end of the day, it's gonna really slow everything down. And as Adam said, the multiple directors, that has become a major issue for Star Wars. The new trilogy that they made, the worst movie of those three is the one when they changed director and they just undid everything they'd done in episode 1 and then had to fix it in episode 3. I think it's a real problem with the Disney Star Wars production, and it's something they need to fix quickly. Because you could take out the first like 4 episodes, and it would make no difference to the show, really.
So to bring it back round, to get back on our discussion of our kind of season here, obviously the episode before, Sasha Banks and Bo-Katan and whatnot sent Mandalorian on this way to find this Jedi to give Grogu her whatever, blah blah, but she rejects Grogu, saying no, not ready for it, blah blah, because you find out that there's too much of an emotional attachment to Mando himself, because he only really kind of acts with the Force when he's about and asks him to do such things. So she's like, well, I'm not willing to teach him because I've seen what's happened before, i.e. Anakin Skywalker, Darth Vader, all that jazz. We know that story already, but she says, look, go to this planet. So we're hopping planets again. We're going from place to place to place to place. Sit him on this stone thing and try and connect with any other Force users that are left in the galaxy. So he does that. He gets there. And what happens when he gets there straight away? Boba Fett comes back, everyone. Yay! Boba Fett is back with Fennec Shand too. Obviously, we've seen in the first episode of season 1, I believe, who was there to try and take out Grogu, because obviously he got the bounty on him from the first season as well. But Boba Fett kind of helped her just kind of repair herself because she was injured at the time, and is now indebted to Boba Fett, and it's kind of the sidekick, the assistant, and Boba just has been trailing Mando all this time because he wants his old armor back. And we finally get that point where he dons the old armor when the Empire comics are wanting to get Grogu. And we finally, I feel it's a bit of a he's finally been done justice type thing. We get to see the badass Boba that we've all wanted to see. Obviously, Rhys, you don't know much different from the Boba Fett that we're seeing here, but did you enjoy Boba Fett kind of donning that armor? Mostly for the first time for you, but again, for others, that it just that kind of whole bit, he just kind of kicked ass, so to speak, in quotation marks.
Jack, I still don't know who Boba Fett is, and if I'm thinking back to this episode, I enjoyed it, and I thought the aesthetic of this episode was good, and it was really good. I thought the production value for this episode must have been, or the budget for it must have been quadruple what it was for the ice planet with the spider CGI. And I thought it was good because we were getting another new planet that's got a different aesthetic. It's not just sand, it was kind of rocky with bits of grass. So I liked that part. Boba Fett was, he was quite badass, and he was quite noble as well, I thought, because he was teaming up with Mando, and then he's like, no, well, I can't leave. I've got to help you finish your mission. And that's what I said I would do. But the one issue, or the main issue I have with this episode is, Mandalorian's like, oh, we can't land here, so we're going to have to take the scenic route, which I thought was a funny line. And then he flies down with his jetpack. And then he can't get back to Baby Yoda in time. He has to climb up the rocks. Where did his jetpack go? What happened there? Like, why did he take it off? Why would you possibly take it off? Anyway, yeah. I thought Boba Fett, I thought this episode was really good. I thought he was a good character. He was new to me, but it might not be new to you guys. And also the Fennec person, she was also new to me. I don't remember her in episode 1 of the season 1. So yeah, I thought that both of them were good characters, and I enjoyed that episode.
Look, I love Boba Fett as much as the next Star Wars fan. He's obviously like a huge character that everybody's like big fan favourite. But I was hoping for a bit more from him. Like, there were some tiny hints about his character by like him rescuing Fennec Shand and him pledging to help Mando. But why does he do those things? What's his motivation? Like, if he knew who Cobb Vanth was and that he had his armor, then why didn't he get it himself? Why is he so against the Empire being back at the end of the episode when he worked for them, like in the past films? It's not enough for me for him to be like the silent, gruff-voiced badass in a helmet, when also the main character of this show is also meant to be a silent, gruff-voiced badass in a helmet. There's not much distinction, and you distinct those characters by giving them motivations and clear goals and backstory. This show just doesn't want to do the work.
But then how do you do spin-off shows? That's the whole point, isn't it? That's the reason you give them nothing, is so you can just, Boba Fett season 1 confirmed. Lazy,
arrogant. My father was a great man. Your father was a swine. That's for all you Harry Potter fans out there. We're talking about Star Wars.
Foreshadowing to when we do the Harry Potter episodes.
Oh, I cannot wait for that. That'll be great. It'll be fantastic. But Adam, also the results of this episode, Grogu's connecting to the Force all this time as the Stormtroopers come. Boba Fett's helping them. Bang, bang, boogie. He makes his connection. Finally, everything stops. But the Dark Troopers come down, kidnap the wee guy. Up to the ship he goes. The Razor Crest gets destroyed. All hope is lost for Mando, it seems, at this point. and we see kind of, I can't remember if it was this episode or the episode after, but we'll talk about it anyway now, when Grogu's up in that ship and he's like force choking the different stormtroopers at the time, kind of showing that emotional, vulnerable connection he's got because of his connection to Mando. Did you enjoy that? Did you think it was going to head in that direction, that he would start using anger, essentially?
Yeah, I thought it makes sense. I thought, if for once, maybe it was a side of Grogu we've not really seen that much of in that way, that yeah, he's kind of stand up for himself. And it also shows, I think, it was clever because it showed just how scared he was of the Empire. Because how many times have we seen him in a perilous situation with the Mandalorian? And only occasionally he will use his force powers he's used in the past to save the Mandalorian. But how many times could he have used them to help him? You know, it didn't necessarily have to, but it shows how terrified he is and of the Empire, what they've done to him, the way they experimented on him, the extent and how violently he uses force powers when, you know, we don't really see that from him at all.
No, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the kind of the emotional side of it, so to speak. You know what I mean? As you said, it's something we've not really seen before. But I had the biggest panic attack of my life at the end of this episode, especially when he goes back to Cara Dune and makes reference to that goddamn prison episode from season 1. He says, "Look, we need to get them back. Need to get them back." My heart was beating out my fucking chest. I'm telling you that for free. Because I was like, by God, that also my whole picture in season 1 was changing that episode for the better. But I thought, oh God, we're doing a prison heist. We're breaking them out. I don't know why this is happening. I don't want this. But we see in this episode, Stuart, that the only one coming back is Bill Burr, is Miggs. And by God, did he change my full opinion of his character before to what it ended up now. I'm calling this a character redemption, a bit of a character revitalisation. We finally got something to him rather than just some guy doing a job. I loved this episode. I thought it was great.
Yeah, it definitely was one of the best ones of the season. And you're right to call it a redemption. There's definitely a redemption here. And it's actually a shame his character's just left on this planet, because he's one of the few characters in this show that has any kind of an arc, that has growth. Yeah, I really didn't like I really didn't like his character last season. But here he's not only redeemed, but he's properly fleshed out with a backstory and everything. Like, where is this treatment for all the other characters? Like, not only that, the show doesn't do this very often, or Star Wars as a whole, but there's a hint at a larger narrative with him and the officer. You know, there's tension, and him and the officer sat down talking about the Empire and how there was order under their rule, and, you know, the difference of fighting on the front lines versus the generals who don't have to fight, etc. I'd much rather Star Wars focused on this type of storytelling, but they never do it. That's more interesting to me. A big morality challenge over how good is the Empire versus how bad is the Republic. Instead, we're always just told that these are the bad guys and these are the good guys, and you root for the good guys.
I really just enjoyed this episode, and in general, it was the whole idea about them getting chased by the kind of pirate bounty hunters when they were getting to the Empire base. I thought that was really good. I enjoyed the bit where the Empire general was just kind of talking shit about Miggs pretty much, and kind of where he came from and what they did, and then he just kind of blasted them in the face with the gun. I thought that was really good. But we got to see that Mando was willing to take off his mask as well. That was kind of big. So the only kind of knowing person to have seen his face is Miggs, but they decide to not take him back to prison, and that was the end of it. But I don't want to spend kind of too much time talking about that, because we're going on a lot here. But final episode, obviously, it's the big thing. They go and they hijack the Empire ship. They do their thing. The Bo-Katan comes back and all that lot. They go up. They fight all the Dark Troopers. They do really well. Mando kind of gets into a battle with Moff Gideon. Moff Gideon I thought was great for the full season, by the way. I thoroughly enjoyed everything Moff Gideon did. They get Grogu, hooray, and the big thing here is that Luke Skywalker returned. Everyone maybe kind of assumed it was going to be Luke Skywalker coming back with R2-D2. I was kind of hoping it'd be Mace Windu. I don't know what your thoughts of that was, but did the finale for anyone, did it have a sense of like you just felt satisfied after watching it?
Jack, I'll be honest with you. I thought it was Luke Skywalker, but I didn't want to say it, so I was just hoping someone would bring it up first.
Talking about bad CGI, I mean,
Yeah.
that might, that it was hard. I was hoping, you know what? I was hoping it wasn't Luke Skywalker because I didn't want it to be CGI. But yeah, that's what we got.
And also, see when they're flying through like into I can't remember what the hyperspace, the CGI around the plane there, that or the ships or whatever you call them. Oh, that was really bad. And I just want to get back onto the laser writing again. This Dark Saber. It's just the Elder Wand. It just is. It's just the Elder Wand. I was so annoyed. But I actually thought that the ending was really good. It was pretty brutal. Like the scene where, because I don't think Pedro Pascal, is that his name? I don't think he shows great emotion with his face. So you know, having a mask on actually suits him as an actor. But you know, the actual scene where he takes off his mask and it's, you know, him and Baby Yoda and they're saying goodbye, all that. That was a pretty brutal scene. So you know, it was kind of, it kept off with a good ending to maybe not the best season that this show will ever have.
So with that, obviously we saw Grogu going away with Luke Skywalker. They kind of go to the left, the door shuts, credits begin, but then there's a kind of scene after the credits where we're back in Tatooine, the two sons, and instantly any Star Wars fans, you wouldn't have recognised this, Rhys, but I'm sure that the rest of us did when seeing this. You saw that building and we were like, that's Jabba the Hutt's old building. That's the bit where Jabba the Hutt dies, and that's the bit where Boba Fett falls in to the pit with the monster and you think he's dead. And we see Boba Fett just comes in and just pew, 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 pew. That's gunshots, by the way, if you didn't know. Blasters and all that jazz. Kills everyone in there and just sits where Jabba the Hutt used to sit. Fennec just goes about and just takes a drink, and we see that we're going to have a Boba Fett TV series come December 2021. Instantly, everyone probably thought this is the third Mandalorian season, that was it over, but they confirmed not long after that there will be a separate Mandalorian season 3, so there will be 2 shows coming of this ilk, of this universe that we're in right now. Are we surprised? I'll go to you first, Stuart. Are we surprised that that's happening, that there's going to be 2 separate shows?
Yes and no. Like, it could have worked for... the only reason I probably would want it to be the one show is that it gives me a break from The Mandalorian, which is kind of heartbreaking to say. Let's not beat around the bush. As much as I say, I love Boba Fett, like, purely on how he looks, and he's a badass, but this show's probably not going to be much different from The Mandalorian. The Mandalorian's quickly turning into the fan service show, which is disappointing, especially if they keep relying on that. You know, the show's eventually going to run out of steam when there's A, no more nostalgia to throw at us, or B, no more old characters to return. And Boba Fett series is probably going to be the same. You know, The Mandalorian was originally advertised as this brand new original story, but I'm feeling now that isn't the case. And I'm worried about all future shows now, because I think that now the only thing Star Wars really has to offer is nostalgia. And I think it's, if they dug a little bit deeper, you know, they'd find there's more than that.
Interesting. Nostalgia. That's how I ultimately felt in that last episode. I all felt a bit nostalgic, and it was a nice kind of happy / sad ending. Like, you know what I mean? It was a bit. But we are going to get more. It seems that we're going to get bombarded, as you said, Stuart, with that kind of Marvel Cinematic Universe type thing. We need to watch everything for it to make sense, because it seems we're going to be getting a lot. We're going to get a lot fast. I'm looking forward to it, but I don't want it to veer in that possibility where you have to tune in to absolutely everything. You have to make that commitment. But I'm hoping that your pitches that you're about to present don't veer too much in nostalgia, because we've got to that time. And I've not decided who's going to pitch first, but if you see my screen, obviously you won't see this in the podcast. I've just started screen sharing. Can you all see this?
Aye.
Yes.
Put
Yes.
that porn away, Jack. What are you doing?
Da, 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 da. It's the Wheel of Names.
Oh wow.
I'll let the wheel decide who's going to go first, and I'm going to spin. So everybody, 1, 2, 3, spin that wheel.
Spin that wheel.
Oh,
Oh, Caesar's going to Darnley native himself. Adam McFarlane is up batting, giving his pitch for Star Wars Mandalorian Season
Betty
3.
going everywhere.
I love
Austin
this
is
aesthetic.
bugging.
It's so shit. It's so us.
Adam, on you go.
Alright, so my big pitch for Mandalorian Season 3 is take Mandalorian back to his roots. And we only got a hint of that. We know a bit about the Mandalorian's history. We know he was a foundling. He was orphaned when his planet was decimated by separatist battle droids, and he was picked up by the Mandalorians. And that's where we know him now. So where I want to take it back to his homeworld of Akvatina, which we only briefly seen. And where I'm going to do that is just to start the series off. He encounters some slavers on Tatooine. He finds a bit of jewelry marked with the crest of Akvatina, and he realizes that people he thought was extinct, not his family, his people who might have been his friends if he'd stayed on the planet, that they're alive and they're slaves. And slavery is actually outlawed by the Galactic Republic, but it was kind of turned a blind eye to by the Empire. So it's kind of rife out in the outer rim of the Star Wars universe. So I want the series to be him trying to track down these slaves that are the last remnants of his people. I want it to be exploring the outer rims, coming into contact with all the big crime organizations. But I think it'd be a good chance to take us away from the tried and tested characters we've seen, less nostalgia and seeing something new, seeing a ruthless Mandalorian traveling around, taking no prisoners and trying to find his family. Well, I keep saying that. Trying to find his people. And I just think it would take it in a nice new direction. That's my pitch. Pretty simple. That's all I've got to say.
Sometimes the most simple is the most effective. I'll let the boys just kind of have a wee comment on what they think about your pitch before we spin the wheel again. Do you have any thoughts about what we saw there from Adam?
Yeah, Rhys is not going to like it because they're going back to Tatooine in episode 1.
It's actually not too dissimilar from my pick, so I love it, Adam.
Oh, thank you. Thanks, Rhys.
No thoughts, Stuart, no?
That was out. It's good. Well done, Adam.
Thanks.
Thoroughly underimpressed.
But Rhys, seeing as you're the only one to participate in the chant, I'll let you do the chant yourself this time. I'll count you in and you go.
Okay.
Ready? 3,
Here we go.
2,
That was the
1.
first one singing.
Rest
Yeah.
in peace, headphone users.
I know.
Jesus.
Well, Stuart claims it's the first one singing, but he's the next one for pitching.
Oh, nice.
There's the confetti. Woo! Woo!
All for me.
This is brilliant, isn't it, Stuart?
I was hoping it'd be like the postcode lottery and like someone would actually come into my house with confetti and it'd be like, oh, it's Hunter looks like Carol Vorderman. Oh, thank you. Right. So my pitch, the one thing that I'll kind of draw a comparison to Rogue One, which Jack will love here. Shame he's not
Shame
voting.
I'm not voting, Stuart.
Yep, there you go. One thing that I liked about Rogue One, despite the fact that it's filled with fan service and it panders to the hardcore fans, is that it still introduces original characters and gives you reasons to care about them before giving us life and death consequences and emotional investment. It's enjoyable because you get invested and there's actual payoff. So with my pitch, that's what I'm hoping to bring to season 2. So I want Mando to pick up a steady crew to travel with him. This crew is the Mandalorian armorer from season 1, Zero, who is the robot who was part of the infamous prison heist episode from season 1, voiced by the criminally underutilized Richard Ayoade, Bilbar when he shows up, and finally Boba Fett and his assassin. So having this crew can hopefully open up the characters in growth with opposing viewpoints, as well as raising the stakes, because not all of these characters will survive my season 2 future spoilers. So hopefully this doesn't sound too long-winded, but I feel the best way is to kind of go through this episode by episode. So episode 1 plays out as normal, except the Armorer stays on from season 1 as she no longer has a clan to belong to. So she joins Mando on his search for the other Mandalorian coverts until she can find one that requires her services, and she obviously helps out taking out the Krayt Dragon. Episode 2, Boba Fett and Fennec Shand appear instead of the 2 X-Wings, and it'll be his ship fighting the Razor Crest, causing them both to crash on the ice planet. The Armorer and the Frog Lady will rebuild Zero, the prison robot, as he knows the Razor Crest systems when he was plugged in, and it'll actually be Boba who saves the crew from the ice spiders, and then pledges his allegiance to Mando in exchange for his armor, but only until the child's brought to its kind. Episode 3 plays out pretty much the same. It's the 3 Mandalorians are going in search of Bo-Katan while Zero stays to help repair the ship. Here, Boba Fett and Bo-Katan kind of provide different outlooks on Mandalorian culture. Boba doesn't really care about Mandalorians anymore. He only cares about self-gain and survival, which can put them at odds with each other, especially the Armorer and her teachings of this is the way, because as Rhys has said, turns out it wasn't the way at all. Episode 4 plays out the same as well, except the reason they go back to this planet is because A, Richard Ayoade did a piss poor job repairing the ship because of the parts, and B, Boba Fett wants his armour repaired, which the Armourer can do because her workshop is there. Episode 5 plays out the same, because the Armourer leaves Mando to seek out Ahsoka Tano himself because it's his quest, and Boba doesn't go with him because he wants nothing to do with any Jedi because he hates them. But with episode 6, that obviously needs to be reworked here because I've already introduced Boba and the assassin. So they go to the planet and Baby Yoda sends out his message as normal, but Moff Gideon finds them. So Zero and the Armourer stay to protect the child while the rest fight the baddies, but this time the Empire has set the best of the best. They are all manner of stormtroopers here, and they're actually competent for bloody once, and it takes all of the crew to hold them back. The Dark Troopers eventually come down to get the child, and they EMP Zero, so he shuts down temporarily while the Dark Troopers completely decimate the Armourer. It is a quick and brutal fight that she can't win. She dies defending Grogu, and the troopers take him and then blow up Mando's ship. Thus, the tragedy actually feels like a tragedy. Episode 7 plays out as normal, but at the end, Bill Burr joins the crew rather than being left behind, because as they actually say at the beginning of this episode, there's nothing on this planet, so why the hell would we leave him here? And finally, episode 8 plays out as normal, but Zero dies trying to save Mando from Gideon so that the villain actually feels like a threat, because I feel that Moff Gideon doesn't really accomplish much in this season, so hopefully it gives him a bit more of a presence that he's able to do something. And also Mandalorian can actually help Luke fight against the Dark Troopers so that he's actually relevant to his own finale, because Luke showing up kind of feels like a bit of a Deus Ex Machina and kind of makes Mando a bit irrelevant to his own finale. So that's really it. And by the end, Mando has learned to make his own decisions about what it means to be a Mandalorian by looking at all the different Mandalorian views of culture as well as his own. And at the end, only Mando and Bill Burr are left in the crew as 2 characters who are trying to become more than their past, whether it's cultural for Mando or personal for Bill Burr.
I like it. I like a few things. I like it's kind of similar to Adam's one, where you're seeing a lot more character development. I think we saw a lot of character development in Mando that we didn't really touch upon in season 2. But the main thing that I liked was something that I've been trying to put into this episode throughout it, but I haven't really found a way to squeeze it in. Richard Ayoade was criminally underutilized, and see how when he was in season 1, you thought, oh, maybe they've just got him for 1 episode. They bring him back in season 2 as a voice actor for something else, and you're just like, oh, it's just so underutilized. So
I was so
agree.
excited. Yeah, I agree. I heard his voice and I was like, right, here we go, baby, he's back. And then I assume he's dead. The ship blew up with him on it, or maybe they just chucked him. Like, you don't know.
Underutilized.
So you kind of want for the next installment of The Mandalorian to have this crew, so to speak, more to what the Mando can interact with other people rather than just kind of himself meeting randoms and just leaving them episode by episode.
Yeah, like it opens up growth for him and growth for other people. It gives you reasons to care about these characters rather than a cool armor or like a cool... The show seems to make you rely on, these characters are they succeed less from being awesome and more from enemies being absolutely useless. Like over the course of this season, I was thinking less, wow, this character's a badass, and more, holy shit, these stormtroopers are fucking worthless. Like, it can't be badassery gets old really fast if there's nothing underneath. So you need character growth and actual character individuality to like let them be something.
Stuart, it's time for you to say it. 3, 2, 1.
Let's spin that wheel!
Round and round she goes. Where will she stop? I do not know. Oh my God, it's Rhys! The closest we've seen it yet. Rhys has got the second to last pitch for the next installment of The Mandalorian. Take it away, my friend.
Okay. So, Stuart's pitch for the first season was to restructure the first 2 episodes because he didn't like them and he felt that they were a bit pointless. And Lewis and I agreed today that if you take away the first 4 episodes of this season, nothing changes because they're, again, pretty pointless. And I just didn't really like at least the first 3. So I didn't enjoy them whatsoever. So almost none of it was important to the storyline, and they were just a bit boring, and they just fell flat. So that's 2 seasons in a row where at least 3 episodes are crap and pointless. The first 2 episodes of season 1, and then the present episode, and then the first at least 3 episodes of season 2. So my pitch's a bit audacious, it's a bit wild, and I'm anticipating a bit of scrutiny. But I just feel like if the seasons are 8 episodes long, and 2 seasons in a row, at least 3 and maybe 4 episodes have fallen flat. Instead of making a season 3, what they should do is make a movie. I know. So I don't want to watch another season where I dislike almost, or if not, 50% of the episodes. I'd much rather watch a film that's got me gripped, doesn't make the quest Mandos goes on seem unnecessary. It's got a higher budget and just a better storyline that's not, oh, I'm going here, and then I'll go back there, and I'll go back there. It's just going round in circles. If you're wondering what the storyline would be, Adam and Stuart kind of alluded to kind of a similar thing, and I think we're all kind of wanting the same for season 3. I think my storyline would be, I've not put a lot of effort into it or detail into it like Stuart has, but I was imagining that the Mando would team up with the other sub-cult Mando races that there are of Mandalorians to try and take back their planet, reunify the Mandalorian in harmony because it's all split into different things and they all disagree on how Mandalorians should be. And it would kind of make the phrase "this is the way" non-redundant. And I've not written a full plot. That's kind of the gist of it. I want them all to team up together. Mando to have like a big character arc and kind of identify who he wants to be as a Mandalorian. So my big pitch is, instead of having a season 3, have a Mandalorian movie.
Cut out the dross and just give us what we enjoyed throughout the seasons. If we cut out the bits that we didn't like and make it a movie, it'd be a much more enjoyable watch, I think.
Yeah, I think so, because there's 2 seasons in a row where you're disliking at least 3 of the episodes. This season, Lewis alluded to the fact that the first 4 episodes are just a bit pointless. So if we take out 50% of it, you could easily use the budget for those ones into making it just a high action, full on drama, lots of shooting, make Mando badass, lots of character arc. It would be. I think it would be a lot better. What do you think, Stuart?
I think it's a really good idea. I actually really like that. The biggest thing I think about Mandalorian is I think they were like, right, we've got this idea for a show, and Disney's like, great, we want 10 seasons. And then the showrunner's like, well, we've only written enough story for 2. And they're like, well, it's 10 now. I feel like that's the biggest problem with this show. Like, and I feel like you're really right. It probably streamlined the plot because there is a lot of filler in here. There's a lot of nice little surprises, but at the end of the day, there's nothing substantial there. So I think you might actually solve a lot of problems with the show with that. I like it.
Thank you.
One thing. Sorry.
No, you go.
One thing I do like the picture, and one thing it does solve as well is, as I've kind of said, Disney gonna Disney, where they just want to keep on making money and making kind of pointless things. If you make a movie and kind of give Mandalorian proper closure to then move on to Boba Fett and Asuka, and whether you're going to be doing something else again later down the line, I think that's a pretty strong pitch that could work. And if you're listening, Disney, hire Rhys Cook as a producer, please.
Guys, my eyes are swelling up. You two are the ones that always criticise me the most. So the fact that you two say it's good, makes me actually feel like I've done all right this week.
I'm sure this is not the reception you expected, Rhys, after pitching that.
I was expecting a bombardment of insults about how stupid that idea was.
But Lewis, I'll ask you. We know you're coming up next, but do you want me to spin the wheel for spinning the wheel's sake?
Fuck yes, I want you to spin. Why not?
Why would you even ask that?
Right, I'll
spin the wheel.
Spin it.
Oh, it's spinning. It's going.
Spin that wheel. Who's it going to be?
Oh,
it's
Jack.
The black line that was marked in the wheel.
I thought I was going to finish on the line and not be Lewis.
Like the 0.001% chance that can't compute for. Right.
Let's take away my man.
So I think I'm going to get the Rhys Cook treatment this week. I'm the only person that hasn't deviated away from the Grogu storyline, which, now that I think about it, I really, really regret. But I'll give you my pitch, and you can kind of, make your decisions on that way. Stewart has played this game, Jedi Fallen Order, so it's going to tie into a little bit about this game that was released a couple of years back. So I'm a big fan of Cameron Monaghan. He's the guy that is the lead in Jedi Fallen Order. And in case you don't know, he also plays a kind of Joker-esque character in the TV show Gotham. If you haven't seen it, I 100% recommend watching it. But my pitch revolves around bringing Cameron back, reprising his role from the game as Cal Kestis, one of the surviving Jedi of Order 66. So my pitch for Season 3 kind of goes a little something like this. Hopefully it's not too long, a la Adam. Although this week, 2021 awards, quickest pitch, Adam Bokevich. At the close of Season 2, we are rewarded by slogging through those early pointless episodes, as Rhys has said, with actually a relatively well-done crescendo culminating in the appearance of a very bad CGI'd young Luke Skywalker, taking Grogu to begin his training. The Empire has fallen, and we're constantly reminded about this in the show. However, there's some loyal followers and remnants and a kind of growing new First Order. This isn't quite... I think the discrepancy between the old trilogy and the new trilogy is about 36 years. I tried to do the timeline for this, but it was too difficult, so hopefully don't pick that apart. But the feel for the Order and the Empire to retake control of the galaxy, they need to take down Luke and his growing school of Jedi. Luke's school is attacked by the Empire loyalists. Perhaps we even see, and hopefully Adam will remember this, Cal Katarn from the Jedi Knight games. In order to save the Jedi Order and keep balance in the galaxy, Luke orders Cal Kestis, this is Cameron Monaghan's character from the video game, to take Grogu and run, believing that Grogu is the balancing savior of the Force. Luke tells him to run and delay, and he feels like something is coming in the way of the Force, perhaps regarding Rey and this kind of developing new balance in relation to the new films. Cal and Grogu are on the run in a backwoods town where Mando is back into his bounty hunting ways, feeling a bit unfulfilled and missing the kid. And he's told what happened in this town. The Jedi was attacked. They're on the run. Nobody knows what happened. And without hesitation, he begins hunting Grogu down again, believing he needs saved from the Empire. And so begins the season, similar to sort of, I don't know, Stuart might have a problem with this because he kind of mentioned it earlier. Similar to Daredevil, Cross Punisher in Season 2 of Daredevil, where Mando is chasing down Grogu, thinking he's saving him, when he's actually endangering him as the Empire tracking him to find Grogu. Finally catching and defeating Cal to save Grogu, it is then Grogu and Cal convince Mando they're actually running together and they need to keep going. Luke is sure balance has come to the Force and Grogu is perhaps the key. However, we just have this ominous something is coming. Balance would dictate that a new power / Emperor, Sith Lord, since the Empire has fallen. I mean, if you're balancing the Force, you have good, you have to have bad. And it is believed that Palpatine is dead. Now, obviously, in the new trilogy, we confirmed that Palpatine survived. Spoiler alert if you haven't seen it, but hey-ho, get over it. But no one can be sure if Grogu will be the savior of the Doom of the Galaxy. Culminating in the final few episodes where Mando and Cal continue running from the Empire and Moff, Mando decides that a life of the Jedi and the Force is not for Grogu, and that settling and hiding is key. Cal gives his life saving the two in a final showdown with the remnants of the Empire. This would serve as the final season for Mando, by the way. I want the show to end and to move on to something else, and I hate the shows that keep spinning. So this is the end for Mando and Grogu, and then we then move on to Boba Fett and Ahsoka Tano as the next new shows coming up. And that's my pitch.
So we have the introduction of Cal back from the Fallen Order games, and it eventually brings to the end of the Mandalorian saga. That's what Lewis wants.
Any critiques, any issues, please feel free to direct them on a more knowledgeable person.
I didn't get it.
I liked it. I liked at the start. I thought, oh no, like, what's he doing, man? What are you doing here? I'm not sure it's going to go down well. But then I thought you chose the most difficult path to pitch a season, and then you managed to turn it around and actually a very solid pitch without it feeling too samey. So I quite enjoyed it. Also, Cal Katarn, yep, I did get that reference.
Yeah.
And yeah, big fan of that too.
If anybody remembers the golden age between 2002 and 2006 for Star Wars PC games, you struck gold.
Nostalgia, Star Wars nostalgia.
So we all know what needs to be done now, boys. Send your pitches. Well, your favourite pitch to me, and we'll crown.
Oh yeah.
But whilst you're doing that, we'll have a little tease for what's happening for our next episode. Rhys Cook, tell us what's going on next.
Well, Jack, our next episode, we're going to have a special guest, Jamie from the Back to the Wall podcast. The Back to the Wall podcast is a podcast based around football, mostly Scottish football. It's an excellent podcast. And none of the members are fans of either Celtic or Rangers. And I think it's always good to get the opinion of fans from outside the big two, particularly in Scotland, because, you know, everything you see on any social media or just media in general is mainly from the big two. So they offer great insight, and we're looking forward to having Jamie on. So as they have a football-related podcast, our next episode will be on the next big sporting event that deserves a movie, something along the lines of Moneyball or 11 Men Out, something like that. So exciting episode coming up, and very much looking forward to having Jamie on.
Very good. So check out their podcast. Keep up with us. Let us know what you think. But we do have a definitive winner.
Oh, first time in a while.
The big picture, what they want next for the Mandalorian is Mandalorian the movie, meaning that Rhys Cook is the first winner of 2021.
Thanks, guys.
The guy that knows fuck all about Star Wars won a Star Wars episode. Would we believe it?
I just know what the average viewer wants, Jack. So you know, I'm not a diehard. So I'm just glad. I thought it was a bit out there, but you know, I try to make my pitches out there sometimes, just because I don't want them to be a bit too sweaty. So I'm just glad that everyone was on board. So thanks for voting for me, guys.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Well, I guess on that note, we'll wrap things up there. Thank you everyone for joining. Commiserations, Adam. You must feel a bit hurt you didn't get to win the first title of 2021.
You know, I feel bad, but I'm glad it's gone to a worthy winner.
Thanks.
All right.
You're
Cool.
welcome.
Okay. Lewis, commiserations, my friend, as well.
Yeah, you know, my pitch was, you know, the only one that stayed with the current theme, so I think a shake-up was required, and Rhys did we made the best pitch for a reason.
And Stuart, you know, you tried to bring in some new dialogue for the Mandalorian, but it just wasn't quite enough to win.
I'm okay with that because I know Rhys will have Richard Ayoade as a major starring role in this movie, so it's as much my victory as it is his.
Tag team people's big picture champion, that's what it is.
He's my Sasha Banks.
I'm his Sasha Banks Cohen.
Nice. Great.
And Rhys, congratulations once again.
No, Jack, congratulations to you for another excellent hosting job.
Oh, thank you. You're too kind. You're too kind. But on that note, I'm Jack, and we'll see you on the next episode. Dun-dun-dun.